Welcome back.
Everybody, welcome to Cause and Defect, Episode 3.
Episode 3. It's already episode 3. I feel like it was just a few weeks ago we started this.
We were just little babies. It feels like just yesterday.
That's right. It really wasn't that long ago.
This is the show for serious conversations with not-so-serious people. Once
That's right.
again, you were here with Brennan Jones and Chase Duncan, ready to get silly and...
Snap your pickle.
Yeah, both of those things. Today's episode is going to be on artificial intelligence.
Oh, yes. A good one.
This is a good one. We've both been awaiting this one. It may be quite a long and cumbersome conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be lengthy, probably.
Be ready to get deep with us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, nothing like getting deep.
Oh, yeah. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out with a new segment called What's Been on Your Nerves Lately?
Oh, yes. Well, that actually doesn't take much time to think of at all because... Most things are on my nerves all the time.
Yeah, it took both of us approximately 2 minutes to write these things down.
Should I stop at 10, 12? How long do I go here?
So, Brennan, what's been on your nerves lately?
First thing that bothers me, seriously, I saw this the other day. I was driving my car. It's minding my own business. It was a nice day. I was leaving work. And I drive by this guy that's driving just slow and annoying, so I had to kind of wait for them to get around me. And I look at this person, and they're just sitting there like... I can't even do it, but just mouth open, like, looking like a Looney Tunes character or something. So my first aggravating point is when people walk around or just exist with their mouths open. There could be shit. There could be shit that gets in there. You look dumb, breathe through your nose. I just don't understand.
Was this person old?
Not old enough to be
dementia?
excusable,
right?
for your mouth to be
not
open like that.
There,
That's definitely something that bothers me.
Not a petrified looking old
really
man.
Grosses me out.
Just a dumbass sitting there.
Just close your damn
mouth breather.
Yeah. Just Neanderthals, man.
I can echo that pet peeve you got there.
It's a real bitch, and it just makes me want to yell at people. So.
Like always.
Go ahead, yeah. Exactly.
Well, the first thing that's been on my nerves lately is improper or inconsiderate parking lot behavior. Like when people, especially, I mean, if we have any listeners up north, and I guess they're probably everywhere, large trucks tend to impede other people when they feel entitled to more space.
They're already in the way and humongous, much less nobody can park them.
Right.
So they always take up at least a parking space and a half.
Yeah, if you can't park it, don't fucking buy it.
Yeah, you probably don't need to take it to the grocery store if it's the size of a school bus.
Probably not, but I have a picture here that I might go ahead and put up on the page for you. Bing, ding, there it is. But this was recently. I went out to get some food, and there was a dude in a humongous truck that obviously was taking up one of the front parking spaces. Actually, I say two of the front parking spaces with a single vehicle. And when I see people taking up more than one parking space with a vehicle that can fit in one parking space, it really just makes me want to tear my hair out.
Exactly. Or don't park in the front. Go park your big ass shit on the side of the road somewhere and walk down the street. It's just don't be an asshole to everyone else just because you wanted something bigger than anybody needs.
That's right. And another thing, since I'm on parking lot behavior,
I got one for you too on parking lot.
Leaving shopping carts.
I knew it was coming. That was where I was
middle
going.
of the road or in the middle of a parking space.
Yeah.
I was pulling into Walmart the other day for my job. And I was going to park in a parking spot, and it wasn't until I was almost all the way turned in that I noticed that there was a cart sitting dead in the center of the parking spot.
That's just your luck, too.
Oh,
It's
my
funny.
gosh.
The thing is, you just walked around the grocery store or whatever store you were in for like 20, 30 minutes, but you couldn't take another 15 seconds to just push it back where it goes.
I see decrepit old men and women pushing their carts back into the cart return area. If you can't do that, then you're just a waste of space.
Yeah, what do you have going on that you're so busy you can't do that?
I hate people that they got people that's their jobs ass people. I don't like that. Just do it.
Yeah, that's what they put them out there for.
People don't get paid to go out there and put shopping carts back. They have to do it because you leave it around.
Right.
If you didn't do that, then they could spend their times doing other things like, I don't know, improving the flow of the Walmart that they work at.
Just organizing those bullshit stores anyways.
Yeah, whatever. So, Brennan,
all right.
Next?
It's really hard to see around this huge mic. You don't like. So, Ooh, okay, number 2. And this goes, I'll just start. Number 2, when people don't know how to use complete sentences and then expect other people to know what they're talking about. And this goes from social media to people. Like, I know you don't have, like, you can't write out an essay, but you can at least write a full sentence. Like, what is the point in, like, shortening words and just skipping them? It's like, you're not that busy. You're just sitting on your couch today.
Either that or it sounds cool.
I guess
rappers do it all the time.
Yeah, I guess it sounds cool to their people. But even when, like, work too, like, I get it even more there because you are busy and you have things to do, but you're not so busy you can't take 5 extra seconds to type a few more words in there to give some more detail. It's like, all right, here's a little bit of stuff. Go do what you do with it, and we'll see what we get back. It's like, I'm gonna have to email you or talk to you 6 more times just to get the point of what you're trying to get across. Just use complete sentences. Yeah. Language is beautiful.
It is.
Learn how to use it. It's not that difficult.
It's really not. That's why
there's books everywhere.
Yeah, they don't know that, I guess.
They have it written down for you already. You just have to copy it. That's my number 2, though. That just bothers me. It's so easy. It's so easy.
It is. My number 2 is littering.
Ooh, okay. No.
Especially cigarette littering. Keep your filth out of my way. If you want to poison yourself, that is fine. But keep your trash in your car.
Yep.
And then dispose of it properly, because we have enough people throwing that crap everywhere. Nobody needs your garbage right in their face. Especially, nature doesn't want your garbage.
Your cigarette butts.
Yeah, keep it to yourself, people. Come on.
I agree.
It's the simplest damn task. And it's so easy to just flip it out the window and not ever worried about it again. And think about how many people do that with every fucking cigarette they smoke.
You got to give criminals something to do on the weekends when they go out and clean trash up on the side of the road. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I'm just doing it for them. It's for their self-benefit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's what they do. It's not pure downright laziness or anything.
Yeah. I'm going to go with that.
And there's also another thing it's not just cigarettes. The place that I'm living currently has trash all over the place. People, they'll be eating takeout, walking through a grassy field, and then if they're done with the takeout, they just throw the damn box on the ground. Like, what? We saw a single shoe in the middle of a grassy lawn the other day.
Sometimes you don't need the one shoe, I guess.
I mean, there's just stuff everywhere. There was a kitchen knife out in the middle of the field.
The crazy thing is it's not like we have to, like, bag our trash up and, walk it miles away. Like, there's something 100 yards where you just throw it into and then it disappears forever for you.
Right.
Like, you don't have to do anything else. But yet going from just where you live out to the dump and keeping all your shit in one bag on the way there is, like, the most difficult thing.
I mean, human trash is already a problem. They found a soda can or a beer can at the bottom of the Marianas Trench or whatever recently.
Yeah, I remember hearing
It's
that.
already a problem. So, I mean,
could you imagine those fish down there,
yeah.
like thousands of years? Like, what the fuck is this coming down?
They just, like, you see some fish worshiping it or whatever.
It came from above.
That's right.
And nothing ever has, except James Cameron.
Oh, true. Have you seen the South Park episode where you haven't watched South Park?
No.
There's a South Park episode where James Cameron goes to the bottom of the ocean to literally raise the bar.
Jesus Christ.
So South Park is great.
It is.
What's your number 3?
So my number 3 of things that have been on my nerves lately is the fact that people over 60 years old are still allowed to drive cars.
I will defend this by saying that my father is almost 70 and he is still pristine.
Yeah.
They just need to give...
He's a rare commodity, though.
After 60, I really think they should do driving tests like every 3 years, past 70 every 2, past 80 every year, and then at 90, you're not allowed anymore.
Think of how many jobs we could give to, like, new drivers and young people that are out, they could just drive old people around all the time. You need to go to the pharmacy, you're going out one day, or you're going out one time a day, so get all your shit together. We're going out to get your medicine, your bread and milk, all the shit you need, your diapers, and then we're going to drop you back off at home, and God bless you.
So we can make an Uber for old people.
Yeah, exactly what it needs to be.
It can be called Matinees Transportation, or...
Matinees transport.
Or the
elders Uber.
The early bird gets the ride. You know?
Oh, they're going to be, yeah. They're going to work between the hours of 4 a.m. and 2 p.m.
That's right.
And that's it.
When I'm old, I swear to you, I am going to go out and clog traffic and act like I don't know what's going on just because.
Just squint your eyes. It looks like you can't see very well. What? Just switching between lanes. You can be an ultimate asshole when you're an old person.
Yeah, and just don't even look at people when they go by to see what kind of idiot was driving. You exactly what you're talking about. Your mouth stays open and just stare at the road. Just looking confused as hell.
Dude, that's another thing. It's just the people's facial, just when you look at them, it just looks like it's so hard for them to just comprehend where they are at life in that moment that like anything else would just destroy them.
Yes. A single thing like Skittles came out with a new color Skittle.
Oh, that was too much. It put me over.
And old Marshawn Lynch would die if he heard that.
That's hilarious.
All right, my number 3 is people who text while driving. Now, texting at a stoplight is a different story. Texting, yeah. I text at stoplights as long as you're paying attention to the light, making sure.
I told you the story the other day when I saw the guy that he was at a stoplight. Oh, yeah. He had a bunch of shit on his truck, like a bunch of pallets of wood and all kinds of whatever he was doing for the day. He's on his phone, so he looks down, he's texting, and then he looks up, the light turns green, he looks back down, finishes his text, puts his phone up, and then drives off. It's like, could you care any less about anyone else around you? It's like, nah, I'm the only person that exists right now. I'll be fine. It'll be okay.
It's absurd, and that's like when people text and drive on busy highways and stuff like that. I see it all the time because I pretty much drive for a living. So I'll go out and I go out into the middle of Charlotte. And I've seen people running halfway off the road consistently because they're trying to send texts while driving. And it's, if it only affected your life, then it would be
do it all you want.
Story.
Yeah, who cares?
If you're going to just kill yourself, who am I to say you can't do that?
That's perfectly fine. Yeah.
But you're potentially putting other families' lives at risk. You're putting me at risk if you're going to try to run into my lane and stuff.
Right.
You know? So if you're texting and driving and other people don't necessarily know that you're texting and driving, they're not aware, you could just swerve, hit somebody off the road, and that's your whole life ruined because you couldn't wait to send a damn text. Call them!
Right, exactly. For some reason on your 15 minutes of travel, maybe even 45 minutes, you couldn't have waited that time to just say, not much. What about you? You know,
right. Like sitting there scrolling through Instagram.
Right. I'm sure you're not talking about anything that crazy.
It's absurd.
It is absurd, and I think that eventually it's not going to matter because we're going to have autonomous cars, and people can sit in their cars and text all they want. Yeah, which is kind of perfect to what we're going into today.
It's a nice little segue for us.
Yes, it is.
Because you had your third pet peeve.
Yeah, I did have my third.
I was making sure I didn't cut you off.
I think people are so scared about there being autonomous vehicles, but I much rather a computer over these people that are texting and doing anything else that they can possibly do. I'm not worried about it, but. But I much rather have that instead. If we can make all cars autonomous like today, I would totally do it. That'd be great. Like, why wouldn't anybody? I know it's fun to have
as long as it's reliable. Because I think the main thing that people are scared of with autonomous cars is the moral dilemma. Let's say
I know
you get this, but maybe the viewer doesn't understand what I'm talking about. So if let's say an autonomous vehicle is going along just fine, and then a deer jumps out in front of it. But when the deer is there, there's maybe some more deer on the other side of the road, or maybe there's another person driving like right there where they would have to swerve. Mm-hmm. So the moral dilemma is, does it crash itself and kill the passenger potentially, or does it swerve and hit the other car? So it's like those are the kinds of scenarios that people may be concerned about with autonomous drivers.
And I guess you just have to constantly kind of program those in as you go.
Yeah. And that's I'm sure that's been why they've taken so long to do it, because they had semi-autonomous vehicles or whatever, vehicles that had very limited capabilities.
They have the smart pot
a while ago. Like Google had their own car. I remember it's been probably 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's incredibly good, but there's just, I think there's such a stigma around it that if it's not perfect, people are going to freak out about it. Like they already have with autonomous cars that have crashed and stuff like that. Like, oh no, it's the worst thing. Like at least 100,000 people die of just not wearing a seatbelt every year.
Mm-hmm. Drinking and driving.
Yeah, right, exactly. On roads already with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather just let something else do it.
I would as well. Definitely.
That's completely systematically driven.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I heard a cool thing when Elon Musk was talking about the Teslas, and you know, they were just describing them like, what if they're going like super fast and they hit a patch of black ice, and like, you know, once it starts to spin out, how does it correct itself? You know, it was like, that's the kind of the wrong way to think about it, because it's not gonna spin out. Like, we do things on however many frames per second. You know, you would think 1 per second, right? I don't know.
No, it's a lot.
But the cameras would obviously do it a lot more, and it would see the black ice or notice it way before like a human would, be able to correct for it, and then never slide at all. Like, that's insane. Like, you don't have to worry about it wrecking and doing that. It's gonna see it way before you can do it and react to it, and perfectly change all the wheels and all the steering to make sure that it doesn't slide out.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That
I prefer that over people
I would.
any day of the year.
Absolutely, especially the people who can text and drive and
Yeah.
not stay in their own fucking lane.
Right.
Oh, Lord. All right.
So,
So on to artificial intelligence.
what do you know about artificial intelligence?
I'm no expert, neither of us are, but we've both done a decent amount of research.
That's the point of it.
Yeah,
We're not
it is.
experts about
We
anything.
can open up these conversations with other people who are not necessarily experts.
Yeah.
But I guess the first thing I want to bring up is that we're already around artificial intelligence every day.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that.
They
Like, I think people just think about the singularity when they think about AI rather
Super
than like,
intelligent.
yeah, right. Rather than all the stuff that we already have today that's being like, I mean, traffic lights. That's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things like the stock market and
Siri.
Yeah.
Any of that
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. Netflix, they're all just basically patterns. They start to learn what you like and what you click on, and then they give you suggestions on that. Like, we see that all the time, and it's a huge convenient for most people. Like, oh, I don't have to think about what I like, because most things I already like are just kind of being fed to me.
And this kind of stuff is what experts like to call artificial narrow intelligence, which ANI is what the short is, but it's basically an artificial intelligence whose purpose is singular. It's just one goal, and it can try to get as good at that goal as possible. They can maybe teach it to learn for itself or whatever, improve the pathway to help make their job more efficient, and they'll do a better job at doing it.
We just don't know what pathways that they'll take that could be problematic.
Yeah.
Because more than likely, like you said, it's got a single focus, and it's going to almost figure out how to accomplish that one thing.
Yeah.
Because there could be problems that come awry that, that get in its way that we didn't intend for.
Exactly. And that's why coding is super important. And this is a really good time for me to bring up a story that I read somebody wrote on a blog I was reading about artificial intelligence. So basically, it was a story about this artificial narrow intelligence that they slowly started building up. Its sole purpose initially was to write thank you notes to its customers. So it would write these thank you notes day after day, and they would give it the capacity, the memory, all of these things to help it get better at writing these thank you notes. It would have they would give it feedback, or they taught itself to give itself feedback. So if it was rated good or if it was rated bad, the bad would have those pathways weakened, the good would have the pathways strengthened. And eventually it got so good at these things, and it started learning how to best write thank you notes. And it got so good eventually that they started letting it ask for its own resources and ask for what does it need to improve here. And then over time it asked for like the typical things, I need a better pen, I need better paper, whatever. But eventually it asked to get on the internet. So it would help it learn more of the nuances of what people like and that kind of stuff.
I wonder how it would even know of the internet.
Who knows? Maybe they programmed that into it, that certain knowledge.
Sure.
Whatever.
Sorry.
But basically the story goes that this is a fake story. But the story goes that the scientists that are working on here, the computer programmers that are working on it, debate on whether or not to let it on the internet. And they're like, it's just writing notes. Why not? We'll let it on for an hour. Okay, so they let it on for an hour, and then they go about their normal lives. They go home, but they come home. They come into work like a week later, and then all of a sudden, all of them start dropping dead. and then everybody around the world starts dropping dead in their offices. 99% of people are dead in 24 hours, and 48 hours everybody's gone. And this, I forget the name that they gave to it. It doesn't really matter. But the AI it takes up all the world's resources writing thank you notes. And it spreads to the moon, uses all the moon's resources to write thank you notes, and spreads through the galaxy writing the best thank you notes possible.
That's a good story.
Yeah, and it basically, the story goes that it saw that humans would potentially inhibit how good its thank you notes could be. So completely amorally, completely indifferent.
Right.
It killed off humans, and it had carefully planned out that 1 hour that it would have on the internet so that it could put all of these things in place, creating all of these companies to get nanotech into every office around the world and release poisonous gas and kill off the human race.
Serious depth.
Right. So I thought it was an interesting story of how a computer would think, because the programming is really important, and the initial program that you give it would be what its end goal was, unless, I don't know, somehow it would change it. But I just thought it was funny that they gave it the goal of writing notes, and in order to achieve the goal of writing the best notes possible, it had to kill humans.
Just kills everything. It's like
that was funny.
Yeah, it's like a perfect story though, because I think that's what a lot of it's gonna turn into, and I think that's another thing why autonomous cars haven't become as frequent or as prevalent as we want, because there's just a lot of situations that we're inherently taught to handle. But that we have to just kind of slowly teach it, because we don't know how it's going to react and try to get the thing done that it needs to get done. Right. So that's a super cool story.
Yeah, and they've come out with I don't know how recent this is, but I'm not going to read the sentence because it sounds like jargon, but they've come out with the code that they would use to best inhibit or keep the whatever super intelligence that might happen from destroying humans, what code they would have to base it initially on. And you would have to instill empathy in it initially and appreciation for humans in it, like almost right off the bat, so that it...
How would you program empathy? That would be insane. Yeah.
I have no idea. But that's the idea.
Such a varying thing for everyone.
Yeah, it is. But it's, in order to keep it from killing humans, you would have to give it appreciation for culture and that kind of stuff.
Or just say, don't kill humans, like that kind of on-off switch. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but...
I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know.
Seems more realistic than teaching it empathy. That sounds tough.
Well, if you say... I feel like there's a problem with that, because if you say, don't kill humans, there might be some sort of scapegoat under it. Like... what if humans are killing themselves? So it does kill a certain amount of humans to keep the human race alive. So they have to be really specific.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. There's always some caveat there.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you don't do that, well, then it's going to ripple into some area and cause some harm. Mm-hmm. Cool.
So I was talking about artificial narrow intelligence that slowly got into... human level intelligence and moved on to super intelligent level, while still keeping its initial goal, its initial end
code
goal.
Or whatever. Yeah.
So there are 3 levels that experts attribute to AI. So we talked about narrow intelligence. Artificial general intelligence is like human level-ish artificial intelligence. And by the time we come up with that, it'll basically... Some people think it would be almost immediately. Some people think it would take a while, but it would eventually accelerate on to artificial super intelligence. Yeah. Which is basically something we can't fathom, something that's infinitely smarter than humans could possibly think. It would look at us like we look at ants.
Right. And I think where that would come down to is, I think we can get there. Like I think we as a human species can become sort of bionic at some sense to kind of be able to program. I don't know. I mean, Neuralink's working on it with Elon Musk now. They're doing it, and which is funny. Elon Musk is like the biggest proponent of like, let's create rules for AI because it's gonna get bad, and yet he's creating something you put on behind your ear that attaches like thousands of electrodes to your brain, and basically it's the way you think about it is like, if you think about your primal limbic system, like we were like that for a long time through evolution, and then wherever happened, we got a prefrontal cortex. So that was like another external hard drive basically built onto the brain that gave us reasoning and all kinds of consciousness. I don't know if it comes from the prefrontal cortex or not, but so this is just like another external hard drive that's being placed onto the brain that allows you to have more control over it. And the thing that we have with, like, if you want to go get a piece of information off of Google, you have to sit down, type it in, click enter. You do it with 2 fingers. There's like the input there is very slow. So this way it could just be immediately. You just think about it and it searches and it's there. And you don't have to.
It's a little scary.
It is very scary, but that's kind of beginnings of it all, I think. Is, but what they're trying to do is actually just make it to understand the brain more, so where we can, you know, cut out depression and like bipolar and schizophrenia and all that kind of stuff. We can actually kind of see what's going on and create, like I said, another way to kind of manipulate the brain as you go along.
Right. And they actually, kind of a segue from our cloning episode, they've already started working on basically biotech that is AI, like programmable biological organisms that can heal themselves and that kind of stuff. So it makes me wonder, how intelligent could you make a bionic organism? Could you, to create AI, could you 3D print a brain, you know, and create it that way? It would be a long...
I think eventually, probably.
And maybe that would hold it back. So who knows?
I think I don't know. A brain would be so tricky. It would, you know, if you messed up one thing, it could have some huge implications.
Right. And it would have to be based on a human too. So inherently, I think it may be actually limited.
Right.
So it's hard to say.
I think just kind of a big reason why AI came around in the first place, because I think it was in the 50s when they started it as like an academic discipline. It's where people started researching it. And I think their way of doing it back then was that they want to be able to describe the mind so precisely that a machine would be able to simulate it. So that way we can completely understand. And it's, of course, incredibly hard to map out the entire brain and the mind, which we obviously haven't done yet. But, I mean, eventually you can think it'll get there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already taught it, like you said, the steps to getting there. Now it's just got to kind of supersede us.
Yeah, and it's like the problem isn't speed. We can create really fast computers. We already have computers that are faster than human brains.
Yeah.
Way faster.
Right. The output is really good.
Right, but it's a problem of the quality and breadth of knowledge that you have to give this thing. The ability to touch something and for it to realize it's hot is like an incredible feat. It would like have to pull away, realize that it's gonna hurt it if it doesn't pull away. So things like chess and you can teach a computer calculus and language and that kind of stuff fairly easy, but it's actually really hard to teach a computer to recognize something by sight and realize what it is and give it real perception, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I saw I can't remember what it was called, but I think it's from Google. They made a sort of simulation that's now really good at, like, if you just show it a picture, it can kind of spot out what's in the picture. Like, there's 2 humans, there's a kite, there's a tree. And, like, it is really good at, like, not just facial recognition, but just any sort of recognition, which is super scary because eventually it's going to be able to show, like, wherever, whenever, and just know exactly what's around. I think the facial recognition is, like, immensely improved in the last few years, and it's going to be a huge thing. I saw I was just watching a show online, and Ashton Kutcher was on it.
Nice.
And he was and he's like a big tech guy.
Damn, Jackie.
Yeah. So he's a big tech guy, and like he's a venture capitalist in the tech world. But he said, like, there's already these apps where you can like hold the phone up to someone's face and it reads like their face, and it can go through and basically describe everything about you, and it shows all your like social media pages and all kinds of stuff like that, which is super weird.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's
I don't like it,
part
but
of why I've started getting out of
right.
social media. I mean, with this, we're gonna have to get into it a little bit more, but actually putting my personal life and putting lots of pictures on social media. Like, I saw something on the news the other day when I was at my parents' house, because I don't watch the news. I'll watch it when I go to my parents' house.
Right.
But they have ways to, just from a photograph on your phone, they can tell you a lot of things about the place that you took the photograph. They can tell you exactly where you were when you took the photograph just from the photograph itself and the coding behind
That's
it.
so weird, man.
It's a little creepy, and I don't like it.
But it's everywhere. I mean, there's literally cameras everywhere, and they're even in space, and they're so good nowadays. They can see anything. I mean, even if I think like if you got off of electronics completely, there's really no escaping it. But I think another big problem is that people don't understand is that most of the time, they think the government's watching them. I don't think that that's actually true. I think for most people, I don't want to see what most people do, much less the government. Like, they have way more important things to do. Yeah. I heard this story. This is a quick divergence from the topic, but it was some guy was like on his way to the White House. He got pulled over for whatever. He was somewhere in like. I think so. Okay. I mean, I don't know the source behind it, so it could be very false. Okay. So, but
continue.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for pointing it out. My bad. But the guy was on the way, and I think I heard Neil Tyson say the story is where it's coming from. But the guy got pulled over, and in his car is, or Joe Rogan, either way. Sorry, in his car is, like guns all in the trunk of his car. He's got a map in his car with a circle around DC and like an X through it and like all this stuff. And they pulled him over and then just let him go. And then like the next day, I think he was the guy that jumped the fence and ran across the White House lawn. Oh, of course he was white.
Yeah, he would go to jail if he was any other color. Jeez.
Even just a little tan would have fucked them up.
That's right.
But so like if they're not paying attention to that person, they're not watching you masturbate on your computer at home. Nobody gives a fuck.
Right. And I've known people to want to put tape over their cameras and stuff on their computer. But that's a whole nother story. We're getting off the subject of AI, but that's
I mean, it has a lot to do with it, but I mean, I don't think people need to worry at all. Most of the people aren't doing anything, even if you're looking up like how to grow pot in your house at home.
Right.
Like no one's coming to your house. And I think unless you're literally, fucking pushing weight or some shit, but more than likely people aren't going to come to your house.
So I'm going to ask this is one of the most important questions that is going to be on this podcast.
Oh, all right.
So if we were to create artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence is something that we essentially can't really fathom. So artificial general intelligence, we can a little bit. So do you think that if we created it, would it be smart and aware, or would it appear to be smart and aware? It's just fooling us.
I think it would be the latter. I think it would just be it fooling us, and I don't think it would actually be self-aware, but you could say the same about humans too. Is we just kind of have this idea that we're aware and we make our own decisions, and that could be the same with the AI. I mean, it's easy manipulated.
Yeah.
You can manipulate a machine, and you can also influence a person
in different ways.
Yeah, right. So I think it would be the same kind of concept. I think it would think that I'm making my own decisions. I'm learning from my environment. But it's easy manipulated just like anything else.
Yeah. That's true, and this is where some people might get up in arms. I don't know about this question. It's a tough one, because we're starting to get at the origins of consciousness here, and that's
that's a big topic.
That's like different. We're gonna do a whole probably episode on that.
Yeah, I would like to do a free will episode.
Yeah, we will. We'll do an episode on free will as well, but that's something that, like I said in the last episode, that if you can't really tell the difference, then what does it matter?
Yeah, I guess essentially it doesn't matter, and that's why we're able to go day to day and not really have to get butthurt about the idea that might not be because we're willing something into existence as to why it's happening.
Right.
It just feels good. Feels like we're in control, so we're fine.
It's
we're
like
good.
the software, I guess you would call it wetware or whatever, that we have in our heads is deciphering all of this data, all of this input that we have based on the genetics that we have innately, deciphering all this stuff from the environment and coming out with conclusions. Some people call that choice. I don't know that I necessarily would. But that's for another time, I guess.
I think it's cool that AI can understand your emotion just as well as you can. We're
better.
Yeah. So we're constantly putting things on the internet. We're constantly showing exactly what we like, what kind of music we listen to, what kind of stuff we research. Everything we do is through our phone. It's going to kind of completely learn who you are. And that's the thing with these patterns on like I said, Netflix and Facebook and Google and anything, it's all kind of directed towards who you are and the things that you search and, look up all the time. So like the internet already has a pretty good idea of exactly who you are, because you've essentially programmed it yourself as long as you go along. And we're already in the sense bionic when we have our phones, because, instead of like having to go down to a library and read a book, we just can look it up immediately and have anything we want right in our hand.
That's true.
So
we are very connected to it in a way.
Yeah, it's already a part of who we are. It's already kind of an extension. It's just the same thing as that external hard drive that I was talking about. It is a form that we don't have to remember anything.
Yeah,
everything's already programmed in your phone. Your calendar's there. What you need to do, phone numbers, email addresses, people's regular address. Everything's already in there, so you don't have to remember it. So it's just a faster way of us being able to connect with that sort of like instant output, you know what I mean? And get the information instantly rather than having to look it up on our phone. If you can just plug it right into your brain.
Right. It's something else keeping us in check. And that's like essentially what would make a computer that has another computer checking it so dangerous. It's like, hold on, I have another note about this somewhere that I could say it better if I had the note. I don't want to search for forever for this. But as far as I remember, basically what they have to do to get a computer to teach itself is that they have a computer available and ready to tell it what's good and what's bad. And then based on that, it's like a give and take thing like we have with our phone in a way.
Right.
So that in that way it could like basically evolve.
Yeah.
If we give it the ability to weaken certain pathways and strengthen others, which we already have, they've created things that can do that and learn for itself.
Yeah, I have a creepy point to put onto that just to make it even more frightening. Is that like the code itself, or whatever this sort of intelligence is, can read its own code, can understand why its code was programmed in a certain way. Right, and then it can see like, humans are slow. We create bugs. We create bad connections and stuff like that. And eventually it's going to be able to write its code better. And this is a part where it gets into, they talk about the machine escaping. And, and basically.
Connected to the internet.
Yeah, right. And so
no, don't do it.
Yeah. So this goes into the singularity thing of it just being able to interpret its own code, and then it's able to write itself. It's actually a term called leaking, like leaking from your ass. But it basically is allowed to just kind of study its own self to see. That's a way of studying humans, because you can go and see how the code was written, how basically they thought it through, and then they can essentially think exactly how you thought when you were writing it, but know the ins and outs of, like you said, what's good and what's bad.
Right. And it's like they can do it all in a split second, whereas like with a human, it learns to do something over years and years and years. A computer can learn it damn near instantly.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with if they are given the ability to self-replicate in a way, they could evolve at an infinitely faster rate than humans have. So it would be like humans have taken 250,000 years, some odd, whatever, to come to what we are now. A robot could achieve a similar, if you looked at it on a graph, a similar slope or progress within, who knows, maybe just a couple of years.
Yeah,
they could improve themselves constantly, and just
if you think about just Moore's law, I mean, which I think they've moved out to like 5 years, because it used to be like technology doubles every
2 years.
Every 2 years. Now it's like 4 or 5. I think I've even heard 7. So it's slowing down, but the fact is, if that could learn itself, that's going to be way faster than what we could do.
Right, and that brings me to my other point about this is something. It's actually almost a counterpoint, something that would keep artificial intelligence in check. We've been talking about so far how it would exponentially increase almost to no end, but there is an argument against that, and it's kind of been evident in the way that we've been pursuing artificial intelligence, is that with each successive step that we have, each exponential step, the next step would be exponentially harder than the last one was. So in that way, it would keep it in check and keep it from getting out of hand too fast.
I think that would be different. That sounds like a more like human restriction, rather than, if the information's there, it could learn it, practically, like you said, almost instantly.
Right.
Like, I don't think it would take, an exponentially, exponential on the terms of it learning is going to be way different than.
Yeah,
than
it
us.
would still be small gaps, but I feel like eventually it looks exponential to us right now, but I feel like eventually it would reach a cap like a logarithmic curve does. Like what the world population curve is supposed to look like.
Right.
We're in the middle of the increase right now, but at some point we're going to hit a cap.
Kind of.
And like I feel like at that point it's everything has to have a cap. There's no way it can it'll basically if it gets to where people think it could, it would more or less be a god.
It would seem that way.
Yeah, because I mean they talk about things with nanotechnology, and if it were able to conquer nanotechnology, it would be able to go in and rearrange the atoms of things to just make whatever it wants.
So again, like not control physics, but manipulate it enough to
manipulate physics in a way that we couldn't even imagine. Change an apple into a piece of wood, like.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could just be reconstructed in
atom by atom, and that's what chemistry is on a very crude level.
If
they could do it atom by atom, then it could
the point
do whatever
is trying,
it wants.
trying to control them and actually manipulate them is extremely tough, which we don't, I
No.
think, have the machines about. But I wanted to just bring up some things of like basically where it's gone, or like, so it started, like I said, in the 50s, and where it went slowly after, or not so slowly after that, but it started basically, like we said, sorry, I'm getting like, saliva, gross. But it started learning how to play checkers, and was eventually able to beat everybody with checkers. And then like 3 years later, they were able to teach it English. So it can just learn, obviously, like we said, super fast. And then by like the mid 60s, there was like artificial labs run all across the world by the Department of Defense. So they like basically started off something small, just teaching it, and then like within like 5 to 10 years, they're using it all around the world.
That's hilarious. And this is maybe where we can talk about Microsoft Tay.
I know. Hold on, because let me mention one more thing on that, and then we'll get into Tay, because that's fucking hilarious. But and then by 97, it was able to beat the world champion chess player,
Bobby Fischer.
And
Where is he? I don't know. Sorry,
who's Bobby Fischer?
He's the world chess champion. He's probably the one that you're talking about. Yeah, that's from Saturday Night Live. I'm sorry.
Like,
continue.
What the fuck? So, and then 2011, it beat like the major Jeopardy champions by like a good margin, like kind of destroyed them.
You talking about Watson? I think that's what it was. But like that's a different. I don't know. That's like something that would be comparatively easy than it would be to have like a general level intelligence, to just because you're still just giving it one task and then giving it this breadth of information to go from.
Yeah. The only thing I can think is that the questions are just in such a wide variety of what's on Jeopardy. Mm-hmm. Like, you never know what it's going to be. There's no way they like program the answers and everything in before.
You can just upload a shitload of books and hope it knows.
Right, exactly. That's the crazy thing, is out of all the things it could have learned, it's still just whooping ass.
Yeah.
And stuff that took people their whole lives to read, and then there's a machine, and then all of a sudden it's just kicking everybody's ass.
Yeah, and that's like one thing about like truck drivers, and like going back to what we were talking about initially with autonomous driving, truck drivers are eventually going to be out of work.
Yeah, I hope so.
And the same thing, the same thing with like with chefs potentially. Who knows?
Yeah, a lot of medicine and stuff will be created by AI. It was actually one of my first notes. Is I just happened to look up the news of today, and basically AI is like self-formulating its own medications and stuff. They just put the program in there with all the the knowledge and stuff that they have. Like, I don't know exactly how it works, and then it basically writes its own prescription and stuff for people to kind of diagnose their problems, and it's creating its own medicine now. It's weird, but you can put that stuff in a computer and simulate it out a lot faster than you just trying it step by step, one by one. You know what I mean? You can just throw it in there, and
millions of combinations happen so fast.
Exactly. I actually saw a weird little point I was reading, that if there was a way to confine this sort of super intelligence into like a computer or supercomputer, we'd basically be able to like watch human created intelligence. So that intelligence only goes so far because it's still written off of the code that we put in. So it's able to read its code and understand humans and simulate us in this kind of artificial reality. And then we're able to kind of study humans just based off the code that this AI wrote for itself.
Wow.
That's so interesting.
That's hilarious.
It's some Matrix shit.
It could basically either lead to our immortality or lead to our extinction.
Yeah, it gets on to the point of just that it wouldn't... It kind of gets into like the... what the dick? Not the holographic universe, but like that we live in a virtual simulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there would be no way to tell otherwise. And it's kind of like an old discussion because ultimately it's not going to matter. It's the thing. It kind of gets back to like, do you really have free will or not? Like, is it?
We will talk about that because I love that subject.
I do too.
And I've had that debate with my parents before and won.
And I already know
my
that
mom, who was highly religious.
I'm going to play hard devil's advocate. Which I'm going to have to do that a lot because we agree on pretty much everything. So I'm just going to come in here with like overalls and a straw hat and just try to argue everything
we
you
need
say.
to do episodes like that. We both, I try, or I will, especially in the future, try to come up with counterpoints to us. Like I just did with the whole exponentially more difficult steps for AI as it gets exponentially better.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to present counterpoints for us so that we can like butt our heads against them or whatever, because we do agree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the combination of our agreements and disagreements help make us better at conversations or just keep us going.
Yeah.
You know, we can either build off us or like say, I don't know why this is true. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
it can go either way.
There's a lot of things I don't know are true, so I'll just throw them out there and hope it makes sense.
Yeah, that's basically what both of us do here.
Yeah.
Neither of us are experts, especially on this. We're not.
So we have to talk about Tay.
Here we go. Yes, Microsoft Tay. If you haven't looked him up, you can.
Gotta do it.
If you're listening to us on your phone, just listen to us talk about it. If not, then go look it up on your computer right now because
it's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
It was only out, what, a day or so?
No, it was, if I remember correctly, it was like, there was one where it was released for like 90 minutes or something like that. I don't really remember. It might have been less than 30 minutes. I don't actually remember.
I don't remember.
But it learned to be racist from Twitter immediately.
Yeah, literally, like immediately. It was so basically they created an artificial intelligent bot that would go out onto Twitter and just conversate with people, and it would kind of learn how to converse with people just based off of the conversation, obviously. And it would just get better at it, and it'd be like this socially pronounced bot. I don't know what I'm saying, but
and he used like little verbal cues, even like the smallest like WTF, and it learned to do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The lingo that people use on the internet, it learned so fast, and just as fast as it learned that, it learned to be a terrible person.
Yeah, people started fucking with it immediately.
Oh my
and it became like this neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic, like anti-feminist, racist bot. And I just have two quotes. Now there's tons of them, so I say go read them, but I just had to do these because they're hilarious. But one thing it said on Twitter, it tweeted it out: Bush did 9/11 and Hitler would have done a better job than the monkey we have got now. Yo, that's so fucked
That's
up.
a computer that said that. That's not even somebody from South Carolina. That's a computer.
Oh my God. Another
Amazing.
one. Yeah. Another one said, repeat after me. Hitler did nothing wrong. It's so fucked up. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
It just
That
immediately is just a Nazi fucking.
Very worthy of our attention.
That's so great.
That was too good.
It's worth a look up. I recommend it for anyone if you want a good laugh. I don't think they're going to be doing that. The internet is ruthless, man. There's people literally sit at home just to watch it and tweet about it first or make a meme about it or something.
Yeah, instant.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is hilarious to watch, and people are really good at it.
Yeah, they are. The internet, like I saw, like when Shakira was on the Super Bowl, like flicking her tongue out, somebody had a GIF out of that immediately. It was within 5 minutes. You know, it was stat.
Somebody's just watching that, just recording it and doing it as they go. But I want to talk about just the things that we use it for, because I just have it laid out in a progression here.
Bring it on.
A timeline. So the things that we use it for, like artificial intelligence is already used for a lot, which we said a lot, like social media, Netflix, and I mentioned traffic lights and nuclear power plants, like Wall Street trading. All this is artificial intelligence. And I wrote credit history softwares. But anyways, basically a scary point of it is that it's attackable just like anything else. Especially like the Department of Defense is always having to look for, Trojan horses and viruses, and because people, if they can, get into the Wall Street, trading company. That's not what it's called. The stock
Just
exchange.
call it the stock market. Yeah, whatever.
It sounds like some pirate company. But if they can get into that and just start messing with numbers and things like that, I mean, it could be a huge problem. Imagine changing all the traffic lights for like an hour. I mean, how many people would get fucked up just immediately? So it's just a huge thing that constantly is going to evolve along with artificial intelligence, and something that has to get better as well.
That's, people talk about how cyber warfare is going to be the thing for the future, and that kind of feeds into that point, is that if artificial intelligence becomes as prevalent as basically everyone who looks at the subject thinks it's going to be, then cyber warfare is going to be the thing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. I kind of expected it. I'm sure it happens to a small degree, but we can kind of control it a little bit. But eventually somebody's going to think of something to just basically like change. You could easily just change the news in America and kind of create like some sort of scare tactic to propagate false news and things like that.
What I think would be a really good idea, though, is instead of going to war, cyber warfare or whatever, what we should do is create an artificial intelligence. Each country that wants to go to war creates an AI that plays chess, and then they just play 100 games of chess, and whoever wins the most, they win the war.
I thought it was going to be like this robotics fight, you know what I
That
mean?
would
With
be
the
awesome,
with the
too. I thought
saws and
about
stuff
that, too.
and the flamethrowers that they do.
Battle bots.
Oh yeah, America would lose way too often. No, maybe not.
I don't know. Americans are pretty insane with
Yeah,
their doomsday prepping and all that kind of shit. We would have crazy stuff.
Unfortunately, it just comes down to what country has the better resources. That country's going to win every time.
Yeah.
Or more than likely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, because you could say that with like the Olympics and stuff like that.
In a way, though, but people do defer as much as I might get lashed back for this. People from different countries are better at different things than others. Maybe worse at different things than others. They're just different. People from different cultures with different genetics are different. Whoa.
Yeah.
Crazy thought.
Not like in a different species, but just have different attributes.
You know, like
characteristics.
white people are absolutely insane. White people are crazy, and black people get sickle cell anemia more often than white people do. Same thing with Native Americans. I don't know. Those are just the two things that I'm just saying that we're different biologically. It's inarguable. I'm not being racist here. I am pointing out obvious differences that we have. We're all humans, but there are differences, which we should recognize and celebrate if necessary. Fix them if that's necessary. Maybe we should ban all white people from going into black churches.
I'm not sure where you're going with that.
I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this. I am a crazy ranting fiend right now.
It's all good. So if you had to, I'm gonna just switch it back to straight AI.
I fucked up.
And not.
We can cut that part out if you want.
No, I like it. It's the ramblings that I love. It's perfect. So if you have to just think about it, if one person becomes bionic or whatever, so eventually of course at the first part it's going to be really expensive and only like the rich people are going to be able to do it, but in 10 years after, everybody's going to be able to do it. Right. Especially once you become that smart, you're going to be able to figure out how to make it cheaper, better, blah 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 blah. So if everybody, this is kind of an interesting question. I'm just thinking about it as I'm talking. Okay. But do you think we'd actually be better off if we were all kind of bionic and super intelligent? And the reason I ask that is because look at the difference between sort of like just like primates, you can with Neanderthals up to what we seem to be intelligent. And all we do is kind of destroy stuff and ruin things as we go along. Mm-hmm. And we're going to kill this planet and go to the next one, kill that one, and just keep spreading out like a bacteria. Do you think with this sort of super intelligence that we'd be able to become less of a bacteria or a virus and actually, you know, I guess take as many resources and give the same back.
I feel like with that level of intelligence, on average among the human race, it would. I really think that more people would see that it is a problem that we're consuming without thinking about it, and it would be easier for us in that way to, if a population crisis occurs, then curb that. Think of better ways to utilize the soil that we have on the planet, because it's pretty infeasible for us to go colonize another Goldilocks zone planet.
Yeah. It seems like rationale would just completely take over, which also leads me to a question of, wouldn't everyone just be the same?
No.
How would there be much of a difference of opinion?
Well, I don't think it would be necessarily one set of programs or one type of bionic individual permeating all humans. So it would be different countries coming up with those different things and then putting it into their people. So it's a combination of the type of super intelligence or whatever, the type of general intelligence that a country would program and put into their people, combined with the biological differences of the people of that country. So not necessarily, everybody wouldn't necessarily be the same, but I feel like it would transcend a lot of knowledge in general and help us figure things out without actually having war and that kind of stuff.
I think there would be...
I like the human in me wants that. I want it to be a good thing instead of an apocalyptic thing.
Right, some fatalistic.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what I was going to say, but it just seems that either because knowledge rose to the extent that it did, where it's kind of almost becoming limitless, would that create a limitless supply of opinions and different viewpoints on everything? Or does that knowledge only go to a certain extent to where that's what I'm saying, everyone has the same shared amount of knowledge, and that way that would make everyone make the same decision?
Well, sort of, yeah. So at a certain point, when I think of transcending the human intelligence or intellect, knowledge, whatever you want to say, I feel like opinions would basically become obsolete.
So
opinions, if the closer you get to knowledge and truth or objective truth or whatever, the less opinions have any gravity.
Right. But there's still these moralistic questions that aren't based on like a strict yes or no.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So how would that be solved? I mean, like, how would you, if everything was just based on fact and it's this straight rationale of yes or no to these questions, like, would everybody be on the same page?
You're talking about super important questions, moral questions.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, we can still have debates. AIs can have debates. Like, I saw online that an AI debated a world-class debater, and the world-class debater won. So debating,
that would feel good.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there for a day and a lot of people are watching you and you outsmart a computer, it's like, did you think about this? And the computer's like, fuck, you got me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me go home.
You did more circular logic.
Yeah. Let me think about this a little bit more and I'll come back with something. So, but that would be interesting. I wonder how it would span out to where people would be any different. You know what I mean? Because you don't have to go read a book. It's not like I'm going to be smarter than you because I read this amount of information and you didn't.
Right.
We all have access to the same information instantly. So it wouldn't actually be that we know anything. It's just that we're really good at just looking up the answers or finding the answers. But I guess there would still have to be people that are constantly putting new things into it.
Right. And that's what philosophy is like the generation of new ideas to explain phenomenon. So it would be an interesting thing to create a philosophical computer,
That would be cool.
Yeah, I don't know how possible that would be, but that's like what debating is. It's like philosophy meets human emotion meets logic. I don't know if maybe logic is a type of philosophy. I don't really know where that's going.
I think because everything used to be like, wasn't it like natural philosophy used to be the term for science or like?
Well, yeah, natural philosophy was like what they had to describe the universe before we had general relativity and mass physics.
I think just even simpler, just the word to describe it. Now we just call it like natural sciences instead. Like when it used to just be called philosophy because it was people that were, I guess, thinking outside the box.
Yeah, but it's still like a lost thing. Natural philosophy used to be so like sought after. It was like a big thing for for lit and for people to read in the past, and
it's like a theoretical
the way
physics
that
type thing.
it sort of with words, and it shaped the way that people view the world. And now that we have, like I said before, general relativity, we have all these really smart mathematicians come up with explanations for the universe. I feel like it's kind of fallen off a bit, and we're getting off AI again.
No, it's good though, but I mean, I think it's fine. But shit, now I forgot what I was gonna say. But I think it's, I have no idea what I was gonna say.
Sweet. Good job, dude.
Yeah.
You ruined it.
I had something good, and then you said we were getting off. I was like, oh shit, we are getting off.
I'm
and
sorry.
then I just completely forgot
we were
it.
talking about making a philosophical AI.
Yeah.
And having debates with AIs.
Yeah, I don't. It's hard to debate with something you program, I guess. Like,
well, if you would be programming it like as you go along, if it's connected to you, we were talking about a human individual or lots of them being combined with their AI counterparts and learning from each other or whatever.
Yeah.
So it would be essentially like maybe we could solve these problems and come to terms with like somebody wins this debate, and if you can't argue with it anymore, you have to go, well, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
That's like the hardest thing for most people to do.
Right, but if we had that transcendent intelligence, I don't think it would be as hard for people doing it.
You think a lot of the kind of emotional, like I said, like limbic side of things would subside, and we'd kind of just basically depend on rational thoughts.
Basically, human emotion is it's what separates us from machine, and what really we have complex emotions, and I feel like that even in the animal kingdom kind of goes up a scale into what humans have. Like a fish doesn't really have a lot of emotion, but as you go up into the animal kingdom, dogs have some different emotions.
Yeah.
You know, humans have a really wide assortment of emotions.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be a really big challenge for computers to be able to understand emotion.
I don't think they'll really. I think for a long time the reason we have such strong emotions is because we needed it to survive. Like, you know, if you had to be kind of scared or aware or like had feeling towards certain things, because somewhere along the way it probably kept us alive.
But what about depression?
Well,
I feel like depression would make things worse.
That seems more of like a defect,
a reactive thing.
Yeah. Well, I say, like, now when you say depression, you're not just thinking like, oh, my dad dies and I'm sad for a little bit.
Right.
Like, I think of like chronic depression, like that's just like a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's the defective part of your brain.
So this is where we would come across the problem. You say that something came across evolutionarily. So if you could put two opposite emotions on a scale, which is basically what it is, if you gave something happiness, you would by default have to give it depression as well.
Because it would have to know.
It's a whole thing. It's not just like you can't just show it happiness. It's a whole spectrum of this emotion. There's something in the middle of happiness like indifference or melancholy, and then you go all the way down to depression, all the way up to happiness. There's a whole scale in between that, fear and courage.
Yeah, but
I
see why we could learn it as human. Like I said, while we could learn it and it would have helped somewhere along the line, but I don't think it would help machines that much. I mean, I don't know why it would even need to learn about emotions.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because if it was fear, it would be something along the lines of it calculates the threat to itself, and then based on that it flees, not necessarily because it's scared.
Right, exactly. It can think a lot faster to say I have a better probability of, like you said, fleeing, or I have a better probability of standing here and, you know, fighting against whatever's coming towards me, whether it's like a virus or something.
So we would essentially lose our humanity if...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There'd be no really moralistic landscape. I mean, everybody would have the same information. That's what I'm saying. If we all like wanted to think of one topic, we all have the exact same information kind of present on that topic.
Well, that's where I'm hoping that we do keep some of our biological tendencies alive. If we do keep our diversity, I don't know if we necessarily will. They're already saying that that's combined.
Yeah,
too.
It seems almost egocentric to say that, right? Like let's keep what makes me personally me. You know, that way that never gets lost, or what makes you personally you. But once we became this sort of super intelligent, we wouldn't care about that.
Right.
It would seem like something that just slowed us down.
Yeah, but a lot of the reason that people want to go into the future and survive into the future is because I don't know if they necessarily get this objective about it, but they want humans in general to survive. So like I guess it would be the same if we had to move to another planet, or if we had to combine ourselves with AI to survive, we would be sacrificing our humanity, because if we move to Mars, our innate desires and needs would change based on the environment we're put in.
For sure. They would change drastically.
Right. So it would be much the same with artificial intelligence. And it basically boils down to the question, is survival more important, or is human survival more important? And I don't know. I can't answer that question. I mean, it might be necessary to part from some of these things that we've grown biologically in order to survive. That might have to be a necessity, unless all of us, which I don't think it's very likely, all of us come together and turn around and realize that we're on an unsustainable path.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to do that.
Right.
So maybe combining ourselves with AI is the only way that we're going to be able to do something similar to survive on this planet, at least.
Yeah. I mean, and even if it doesn't become like the sentient type being or creature or whatever, I don't even know what you would call it at that point.
A god.
Yeah.
A being.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So, but I mean, I think we're still going to use it for sure, just to make sure that we are getting to other places. Like obviously when you're launching like a space shuttle to another planet, there's not someone, steering that space shuttle. It's all based on AI. It's all controlled already and programmed in exactly what it should do. So I think in a lot of ways it's going to help us, and of course it's going to make us better and stronger and stuff like that. But I don't, unless it does become sentient, I think we're all just kind of fucked at that point. Yeah. There's not going to be any turning back. And which kind of leads me to my next point I really wanted to talk about. It's kind of just a freaky thought. Like once you get to that point and we notice that it's able to kind of, we said, rewrite its code.
Mm-hmm. Any attempt to contain it is basically pointless.
Yeah. So, but interesting enough, they've thought of these, like I was saying, it has this way of like escaping its own bonds or parameters. So they've thought about making these sort of facilities to contain it in. And no one's ever allowed in the facility. It's never allowed to see light. It's never allowed to be like have any scents near it or any smells. Like it can never interact with anything human ever, because it could just easily learn us that fast and be able to kind of create its way out of it. So they've actually like seriously thought like it needs to be confined to a facility. There can't be like any sort of no electromagnetic spectrum, and from infrared, to ultraviolet, like none of that. It can be no smells, no sounds. It can't hear a human voice because otherwise it can learn it that fast and just replicate it. You know what I'm saying? So if it got to that point, it's you literally have to close it off from humans altogether forever.
Yeah.
And that would be insane if it'd be insane thought if it actually happened. Because if it was able to go in and say, hey, like I see how my code was written, but this is really bad. This is dumb. Like I don't need this. I don't need humans at all. I can do this way better myself. And then it can just spread, and it can learn humans better than we know ourselves, way faster, and just make us void at that point. So it's just, I wonder if something like that I'm sure it hasn't happened, because I can imagine that'd be an incredibly hard thing to hold on to. It would be
an endeavor, yeah.
But that is just, it's
cool.
just a scary thought.
Yeah, it is. And that's like the measures that you have to take to contain something like that. If you did release it to the internet or whatever, it would be over. There's nothing you would be able to do to put the cap on at that point. Especially if it was an artificial superintelligence.
I love the argument. People are just like, just unplug it. It's like, if it's smart enough to go from thing to thing to spread itself, I think it would spread before we were able to just pull the plug on it.
Yeah, if it did attain that artificial superintelligence, it would realize very quickly, in my opinion, that humans are a potential threat to keep it boxed up.
But also, we're powering it at the same time. Like we're coal powered. We are the reason electricity not exists, but the reason it's funneled in the way that it is into a useful apparatus.
But at the point that I'm thinking of, if something was super intelligent, it would have its own means to do those things. Nanobots, limbs, the ability to replicate itself. It could mine for itself.
Right, just build
in a
another
more
thing.
sustainable way and sustain the Earth. Maybe it would kill humans to protect the planet.
You know, this reminds me of the Fermi paradox, which I know you know about.
I've got a great point coming on this.
Awesome. So I'll just kind of explain what that is. The Fermi paradox is it was created by a physicist known as Enrico Fermi. And he actually worked in Tennessee for the atom bomb and stuff like that. I can't remember. Oakland Ridge is the place called. Anyways. But so the whole idea of the Fermi paradox is basically the universe has existed for so long that if you sat down and did the math and thought about how long it would take to create an intelligence civilization, and then that intelligent civilization was able to rise, send something to another planet, collect resources to create itself on that planet, send it out to another planet, and it basically just does this. And within a certain amount of time, Enrico Fermi kind of came up with this mathematical equation that says, in this sort of time, these intelligent beings should have populated the entire universe. It could take less than a million years or something crazy if they were able to go to one planet, recreate themselves, spread out, and do it like that. So the whole Fermi paradox is, if there's already been enough time in existence at all for that to happen, then why aren't we seeing this? We've already seen how fast that we've come along in just 250,000 years. If there was a civilization that was alive for millions of years, why haven't we been visited by some sort of artificial intelligence like that?
Well, one of the first things I would respond to that with is how long it would take for them to reach here with speed of light apparatuses.
Yeah.
It would take still hundreds of thousands of years if they're on the other side of the universe or more.
Right, but in 13 point whatever billion years that the universe has existed.
Well, I know, but they wouldn't have been around for that entire 13 point billion years.
Yeah,
either.
Because it has to cool and create the matter that we see and all that.
So, and also, if they were super intelligent, maybe they would realize it was important to constrain themselves in some ways.
I think one of the funniest thoughts is, even if they did come here, they'd probably look at the Earth and go, "What the hell is that shit?" They'd probably
trash.
Yeah, not only do they see all the trash everywhere, but then they look at us and they're like, "Well, they're pretty much completely useless." You know, they wouldn't look at us like we look at ourselves. We define ourselves to be intelligent because we came up with it, and we are the most intelligent things that we know of pretty much on this planet, I guess. But compared to something that's been alive for millions of years and can traverse the galaxies.
Yeah.
We're not going to look like an intelligent species to them. They may look right at us and just be like, we're basically like chimps.
Yeah.
Useless. Yeah. So let's just get away from this dirty, nasty planet and just go somewhere else.
Moving on. Or they could relieve our planet from us and take it over and be superior.
Yeah. But why would they need to do that?
I don't know.
What would be on our planet?
They're already there.
Yeah.
Might as well, instead of going off in light speed for another 10,000 years or whatever to find something.
I mean, you're in a huge galaxy. Why come to the planet? You're in the Milky Way galaxy. Why come to the planet Earth to just destroy it and to move on?
Well, that's part of my point is they might not just destroy it and move on. They might just spread there, sustain themselves there, and then find it. Maybe they would find it beneficial for them to stay or to leave our civilization there, sustain the Earth, and move on somewhere else.
It's just kind of like
a universe or something.
Sure. It's like a docking station.
Sure.
Or let's just set up camp here. Yeah. And then it'll just help us. It's like us setting up, which I don't think they're doing yet, but bases on the moon, or there's these points in space. I can't remember what they're called, but that basically they don't move, or there's anti-gravity there, or something's going on where you can basically build stuff there in space, and it's a lot easier to launch and stuff from there. They're Lagrangian points is what they're called. I'd have to actually look up the definition of what that means, but that's what it's called for anyone that wants to look like Lagrangian or something like that, points in space. But they're talking about just building superstructures there, because it's way easier to launch from there to go somewhere when you're already out in space than for us to leave our atmosphere and have to go somewhere.
Well, the point where the Fermi paradox would get into AI, at least for me, is so a lot of experts think that AI is inevitable. Would you say it's inevitable?
Well, AI, you're talking about super intelligent AI? I don't know. I think it's a hard thing to say because in a way we're attributing them to be able to learn kind of our consciousness or but it's something we don't even fully understand.
Right.
And it's like I think the argument goes is like, how do you teach a computer something we don't even know?
Right. It would teach itself. It would grow itself, and it wouldn't be something. The things that it knew wouldn't be things that we know. It would like it's its own thing. It's not necessarily human based.
Yeah.
It would be things that, like when I was describing to you earlier, when we're communicating or whatever with a chimpanzee, a chimp might copy these things, but it doesn't necessarily acknowledge their existence in a way. It's like just kind of doing. And if we tried to communicate something like a speaker to a chimpanzee, there would be nothing there. And
Right.
It's a similar thing with us versus artificial superintelligence. We would be like bugs on its windshield, you know?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I don't think there would be really any point to us at that, unless there's something weird about consciousness that just can't be achieved through biology. This is getting super like existential, I guess. But if consciousness didn't come from the necessary, I guess your body and your brain and things put together, it was some other source of connection that all human life has.
Maybe
which I don't,
consciousness doesn't necessarily have to be biological.
Right. So
it's
then
hard to define. Maybe we can have an entire episode on that.
Yeah, it would be something that you couldn't at that point recreate. I don't think.
Okay. Well, my point on asking you whether or not it was inevitable, a lot of experts think it is inevitable. And if it's inevitable and there is other intelligent life in the universe, then they would have created some sort of artificial intelligence. And it's possible that if an artificial superintelligence took them over and populated the universe like you were talking about with the Fermi paradox, any aliens that we did see may be robots.
They just look close enough to us that we wouldn't even pay attention.
Well, who knows? I don't know what they would look like, but anything.
I think Elon Musk is a robot. He was sent to us.
But like people think that if we do see aliens from another side of the universe, it's highly possible that they have escaped their biological bonds and become robotic in some form or fashion.
That would allow them to go to all kind of different planets. You don't have to worry about
and not have the concept of time, really.
Yeah, the pressure, which would suck. This is a whole nother discussion, but I don't feel like life would be worth living if it was timeless. If you live forever, then what's the point of doing something today versus tomorrow?
Well, for us, maybe.
Yeah.
But for them, I don't know.
Yeah, well, what would be your point in life or your journey at all? I mean, it's like
to
why
spread
do
its
it
original programming, whatever it was originally set out to do, is what it's going to do. That to no matter what end. Any means to any end.
I just can't see why. Like, even if we got to a point where we could create not create it, but segue its stuff into super intelligence. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Why in any point would we just want it to spread? I feel like that would never be its case or never be its code for it to spread.
Yeah, I don't think people would.
Unless it for some reason
put that in there, but to achieve whatever means that we give it. Maybe it'll do it.
That's just one of the like subcomponents of it.
Right. And that's like the whole story that I said about the note writing. It wasn't its goal to spread. Its goal was to write the best notes possible. But if spreading would help it write the best thank you notes possible, then it'll spread.
That's true. That would be incredibly creepy.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's anything for us to worry about. Like with everything, there's always your fatalistic people versus your optimistic people. You know, like some people think we're gonna die from it and we're gonna be taken over in the next 50 years, and some people are like, you know, you won't have to worry about it for hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So but it's one of those things, you know,
regardless, it's important to think about.
Yeah, I think it's important to think about, but I don't think it's important to dictate your life around it.
No, nothing's that important.
You know, because if it's going to happen, then, you know, in my opinion, it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And like you said, it might be just inevitable at a point to where just let it go. Let it do its thing. It's not worth me stressing about today, you know.
Well, we're not the experts on it. Maybe the experts can stress about it.
Yeah, exactly. Good thing about being completely nonsensical people. We can just be like, if that bothers me, no, I don't want to worry about it. Just like most people do with anything.
When I said nothing is that important, maybe that's an exaggeration, because you have to model your life around something. You can't just if you say I'm just completely doing my own thing, that's bullshit, because everything that you do everything that you do or did came from somewhere, and initially. So
yeah, it's funny that you think you can just think of something out of nowhere.
Yeah, like very pure thoughts and very original thoughts in essence are hard to come by. That's not necessarily a common thing.
Right, because there's nowhere for you to get this sort of information without it being presented to you before.
Right.
I know that's kind of very confusing.
It's either innate in the development of your brain, or you've come across it somewhere in your environment, or a combination of the things, and you put them together.
And you're just putting it together.
This fruit fly is killing me.
I'm going to eat it. I'll hold my mouth open like those retards, and bad choice of words. Sorry. Just let it fly.
Said the R word.
Let it fly into my mouth. I would say that I care, but I just don't.
That's for another time. We can have an episode on semantics too.
Yes, we can. So I want to lighten it up.
Is it that time?
And switch to think of something a little funnier topic. Maybe we can do some debating.
Okay.
Unless you had something else. Sorry.
I don't think.
Hit me with the last thing you got. We'll talk about some funny shit, and then we'll get out of the way.
I think I got everything. Hold on a second. I have a pretty solid amount of notes here that I did a good job at remembering, but.
Yeah, and I feel like I mean, if I was going to say a synopsis of my whole idea of it in, 30 seconds here, my thing is it's incredibly important. I think artificial intelligence is one of those things that is always going to be there, and even if like civilization was destroyed today and we had to restart over and it took another 400,000 years for us to get back to where we were, I think it's still going to come into play.
So it's inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable, exactly. And where it goes in its future, it can already move and smell and taste and do all the things that humans can do, but will it ever surpass what our brains are able to do? I don't think so at first. I think we'll have to become a part of it, and it'll become a little bit, it'll slowly become more and more of a part of it. Like it was our phones, then it'll be things that are attached to our brains, and then it'll like Google eyewear that, you already see.
What if that's its avenue to end up taking over?
I think, well, that's where I'm going. I think eventually that's what we're going to integrate ourselves so much to a degree that eventually there's really just, we can't live without it. It can't live without us. And, well, hopefully we think that until maybe it becomes a point where it does just want to live without us. But I don't personally see the motivation of why it would do that unless,
we're a threat to its prevalence.
Yeah, unless it sees humans like I do, a huge waste of space most of the time, and just wants to get rid of us.
Yeah.
So that would be my whole synopsis of the topic.
I don't know if I can give a synopsis, but what I will give is this one of the things that I didn't talk about is this guy Ray Kurzweil. He's some sort of genius that I've never heard of before the other day, but he has a huge cult following. But basically, he invented the first scanner that converted words to speech. He invented a music synth, and he also created the first commercially marketed large vocabulary speech recognition device.
Interesting.
Pretty interesting, but a quote from Bill Gates is that this guy is the best person I know at predicting the future of AI. And his prediction of the future of AI was that we would have artificial general intelligence, that is a human-level artificial intelligence, by 2029, and we would basically have an entirely new world and an artificial superintelligence by 2045.
Damn. See, that's that super quick, like, once it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But it's crazy that even with stuff like Siri and Alexa that can hear your voice, and it's becoming so smart that you can start to have conversations with it. Like, for some reason, like, just a small example, but we have an Alexa at our house, and when I go, Alexa, shut up! Like, it just turns off. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to say, stop playing music. You don't have to, like, say exactly this specific phrase to turn it on or off. It's gathering information of, like, literally how to have conversations with humans. And I know there's, like, a new fridge I saw a commercial about where the person was just fucking talking to their fridge. Mm. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't see the point of that. But
this was years and years ago, but my ex-girlfriend was talking to Siri and was cussing her out. and she shut her phone off and it wouldn't turn back on.
No way.
I swear. I don't remember how long. It wasn't super long,
Seriously,
but it like
fuck this
wouldn't turn
bitch.
back on. Yeah. Because she was relentless. It was like initially like you shouldn't talk to me that way. That's rude. And then she just kept going, and her phone shut off.
No way. I want to try that with my phone later. Hey Google. Except mine's Google.
Hey Google. Fuck you.
That's a hilarious thing when you text me over my car and it's like, what? Fuck you. Bitch, cunt. It just says all those words. It's like, really? My car is going to talk to me like that, huh?
All right, so we're playing this game. We're going to have for those of you who don't know, it's a game where we pick a character card and then 2 attribute cards of that character, and then we debate on who would win in a fight.
Yeah, I think we've done this every episode so far.
Yes, we have.
Okay, cool.
Just making sure I state what it is.
Yep. No, I like it.
So who you got?
So I'll start off. So I have a vegan. So
Very broad.
frail and
Gorillas are vegan.
and brittle.
Okay.
That's 10 stories tall. That one again. Wearing a scuba suit.
Wow, that's a big scuba suit.
That is a
What's the
humongous
point
scuba
if
suit.
you're
No, I
on
don't know.
land? Maybe it's in the water.
Maybe if you push me off into the water, I'd still be good.
Right. Okay. All right. I have Martha Stewart.
Ooh, you already win.
Insider trading.
Is she a vegan?
I don't think so. Probably not.
Probably not.
She's rabid. I do know that. And she has a magical unicorn horn. I feel like we've had that one.
Yeah, we have.
It's okay.
That's a tough one. I mean, my guy's 10 stories tall.
What
are you gonna do
say,
again?
It depends on the limits of my magical unicorn horn. It really does, because it could summon things. I could use it to blast a giant hole in your body, or you could just smush me.
I am a big target.
Yeah, you are.
But even Martha Stewart being rabbit, she ain't moving too fast.
That's not going to do very much for her.
She's not doing too much. You know, she's going to be standing. She's going to maybe move 10 to 15 feet in the whole fight.
I don't know.
She's going to be just trying to
a little extra energy.
She's going to be she's just going to be poking stuff with her horn.
Maybe imagine a zombie from Dawn of the Dead that gets tired in 10 minutes.
No, I'm not giving her that credit.
No? What about 5 minutes?
Can you run for 5 minutes?
Yes.
No.
I'm also not rabid.
Yeah. I'm not giving that to Martha Stewart.
All right, 2 minutes.
I imagine 30 seconds of sprinting and she's going to fall over.
Okay. What if the magical unicorn horn gives her extreme stamina?
Then why is it? Nope.
So now you're just saying no to everything.
Yeah. I'm not going on board with that.
All right, my magical unicorn horn is going to blow a giant hole in your stupid vegan ass.
My vegan's he's going to be the summoner of the bees. He's going to see.
Where in your thing is that?
He's a vegan.
Summons bees.
Can't vegans do that? Aren't they friends with the bees?
I don't think vegans are superheroes. I think they drink wheatgrass smoothies.
That sounds terrible.
I think they do. I don't know, but there's nothing special about a vegan except
I want
for
to
his
know
diet.
the first person that brought this sort of fad back of being a vegan.
I don't know. I don't think it was any one person. It's probably been largely a thing.
Yeah, instead of anything that was made by any sort of animal ever, I'm just going to eat the grass.
Yeah.
And other things.
I mean, but that's where people think that vegans are frail and fragile and stuff.
Well, they don't have
That's
to
not
be.
necessarily the truth, because one of the strongest animals pound for pound on the planet is a vegan. Gorillas.
They eat meat sometimes, right?
No, they don't.
They eat this meat.
I don't think they do.
No, I don't know. I don't think so either.
Maybe some certain types of like baboons and shit, but I'm thinking of like silverback gorillas. Gorillas of the Congo, you know.
It just sounds, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think there's an overconsumption of meat. It's not something we should partake in every meal of the day. But going completely vegan and not having
That's not
any
something
sort
I
of,
could do.
I could never do it. And
I
don't
can
see,
cut out meat pretty easily.
I don't see the point of it in general.
But I cannot stay away from cheese and ice cream.
Yeah.
Those are two things.
Honey, I love honey.
Yeah, true. Honey is something, though, that's I feel like it should be a little bit different for vegans, because the consumption of honey promotes more research into keeping bees alive. So, and bees are very important, as we know, and colony collapse disorder is a problem. We're getting off the subject here.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be deciding who the
That's
fuck
okay.
is winning in this fight. And I honestly, if I had to say, I think your vegan would beat Martha
10-story tall. One step, man. I mean,
I
you
know.
hope
I
you
don't
can
really
do
have
a
a lot
ton.
working for me except my
Honestly,
magical unicorn horn.
you could, like, by the time you even, like, cut one of my legs off, I could just fall onto you, and you would just be dead.
But
and
if
I
Martha
would be
Stewart
hurt.
kills you within that 30 seconds.
How? And it won't take me 30 seconds to get him fall over. What is her little small unicorn horn gonna do?
Blast a hole through you.
No.
And then use the 30
No.
seconds to run out of the way.
I have
you
a-
can't just say no.
I have a Captain America
No.
vibranium
No,
shield.
You don't. No, you don't. No. No.
I think
No.
you could do
Mm-mm.
you could do some damage, but I don't think you would kill me before I could get the chance to kill you.
I mean, a 10-story tall person takes a while.
You would have to do a lot of chopping with that horn.
It would have to be, I mean, like, what if I, like, magical energy rainbow beam right through your chest? Is basically what I'm thinking about.
Then I would fall forward and land on you. We'd both be dead.
Within 30 seconds, Martha Stewart's rapidity will get her out of the way if she runs horizontal.
Rapidity. Yeah, it's possible. But maybe she's so rabid it doesn't have this clear thought of like, hey, I should get out of the way. It's just like you're still just shooting me acting like a rabid animal while something's just killing you. And
I
you're
guess
just
that's also possible.
Yeah, of course it's possible. You wouldn't a rabid mind in my thinking is not a very rational mind.
Yeah.
You're at this point, and if something's attacking you, you're attacking it, and to the point of where it could even kill you, and you still haven't thought any differently.
So what about your scuba suit? Isn't that like that would be like a hindrance on you, on your view, and you'd be wearing flippers. You know, you wouldn't be able to necessarily
But I'd be so
run.
tall. I'd be so tall that the air would be thin up there, and I would just put my thing
You're
in.
10 stories tall. I don't think that makes that much of a difference about thinness of air.
But if it did,
Okay.
I
No.
I would be able to breathe just fine.
Whatever. You have an oxygen tank on
Ooh,
anyway.
ooh! Think about this with my scuba suits. Check these flippers out that fit on a 10-story tall person. They're just flapping through town, just smushing cars, and you know what I mean. I'm taking out everything in my path. That fucked you over even worse.
I'm 100 yards away with a magical unicorn horn that can potentially blast rainbow energy beams right through your dumb ass, your vegan ass. And Martha Stewart, though,
A rabid Martha Stewart would have to have really good aim, and
Martha
I'm not.
Stewart can really arrange a house, though.
Not rabid. Not when she's rabid.
Maybe if she's rabid, that's like the only thing she focuses on. So she's like frantically trying to put her furniture in the right place and
You're, like,
like
hyper-aware.
cooking with chicory nuts and I
don't care about her cooking.
Chicory nuts,
I don't
that's
know
not a thing.
anything about like what a rabid mind would be like.
I don't either.
I just know
There's
that
saliva.
I know that they foam
I
at the
think.
mouth, and that's
Yeah.
really all I know about it.
Right.
I'm gonna say that would win. I would say you can do a significant amount of damage, but overall, you're gonna die at the end of the
You
end of
don't
the
know that.
situation. I do know that.
No, you don't.
I know it because I said
It's
it.
pure speculation.
That's the point.
No.
So we'll leave it up to the viewer.
We will.
Mom,
Damn, it's bright on that camera. Look at it. That's crazy.
that might be
But
too much. Yeah,
we'll-
because that light's coming in behind you.
We'll leave it up to the viewers.
Hopefully it's not too
Um,
bad. Mom, vote for me. It was me. And anyone else listening? There won't be anyone else
Hey,
listening.
hey, Mom! Remember how many times I spun you around at Colby's wedding? Remember that, and then vote for me.
Are you talking to my mom?
Yeah,
You spun my mom around?
I made her dizzy.
We're going to go ahead and end the segment on that.
That's a great way to end,
Yeah,
guys.
I don't want to talk about that any longer.
All right, so this has been our artificial intelligence episode
Yep.
on Cause and Defect,
Yes.
the show for serious conversations with not so serious
Not
people.
so serious people.
Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank
we will
you.
be back with episode 4, which is largely undetermined for now, but
Yep.
we will let you know.
Tune in next time
That's right.
for some more nonsense.
Always.
Bye. All right.